Ladies and gentlemen, right now, the Daily Wire is pretty much imploding. Things are not looking good. You see, in just the last week, both the CEO of the Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring, as well as the president of the Daily Wire, John Lewis, have both stepped down from their positions and completely stepped away from the company. Now, all of this news comes out as the Daily Wire seems to be seriously struggling to maintain relevance in the modern conservative ecosystem. Pretty much every single one of the Daily Wire's official channels have been losing subscribers, and their viewership is in the absolute gutter. Seriously, no one really watches the Daily Wire anymore. And then, on top of all of that, just in the last 12 months, the Daily Wire has lost two of its biggest, most successful content creators, Candace Owens and Brett Cooper. Now, we all publicly know that Candace Owens' departure from the Daily Wire was related to her criticisms of America's relationship with Israel, but with Brett Cooper, we don't really have as many of the details. That being said, what we do know is that after getting rid of Brett Cooper, the Daily Wire actually hired Brett Cooper's former producer and bridesmaid, Reagan Conrad. They gave her acting classes to help her imitate Brett Cooper's style. Then they had her take over Brett Cooper's former show, The Comment Section. So yeah, that entire situation was just weird. And so that's probably why Brett Cooper posted this when the news broke that Jeremy Boring was leaving the company. There obviously seems to be some bad blood, to say the least. Now, Ben Shapiro actually weighed in on all of this just yesterday, but before I take a look at that with you guys, I want to say real quick that if you guys enjoy the daily news coverage, consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton with my daily struggle against the YouTube algorithm. But okay, let's see what Ben Shapiro has to say about all of this.
Okay, and then last but not least, the so-called God King of the Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring, who's been on this podcast many times, who is your partner in founding the Daily Wire, is no longer co-CEO, along with Caleb, who was his co-CEO for years. And now he's going to be doing something else. So there's all sorts of chatter about this online, Ben. People's tongues are wagging. People who used to work for the Daily Wire suggesting this was a terrible implosion and that Jeremy was impossible to work for, etc. What is the truth?
I mean, the truth is that Jeremy stepped down to pursue things like Pendragon, which is the single biggest, I think, entertainment offering ever put forward on the right side of the aisle, like ever by a long stretch. And people are going to be blown away.
It's like a Game of Thrones series that you guys are
unbelievable.
producing
It's
right
unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it's like high fantasy, Arthurian legend, 7 episodes at very high cost. I mean, it is a major, massive project, and he has to go and he has to edit that. We have to figure out exactly how we're going to market that. We have other creative projects that Jeremy is going to work on, that Jeremy wants to work on, and that Jeremy is involved with. And frankly, the day-to-day management of a very large and growing company was not, I think, in his view, conciliant with that mission, which is for him to do more creative projects, to do more on the entertainment side. Frankly, I think for Jeremy, that's where a lot of his heart is as well. And so he wanted to put more focus in that as we mature as a company. As far as all of these sort of bizarre rumors that we're in serious trouble. Oh no, everything is bullshit. I mean, as somebody who looks at the balance sheet, I can tell you that is certainly not the case. And we are healthy, we are growing, we are thriving, and we have extremely big moves that we are looking forward to making this year.
Now, of course, Ben Shapiro isn't going to come out and just admit that the house is on fire, but folks, we pretty much have all the data to confirm that, in fact, the house is on fire. As we talked about earlier, not only are people not really watching the Daily Wire anymore, but also people are industrially unsubscribing from all of their channels. Seriously, right now, there's pretty much a mass exodus of people that just refuse to watch the Daily Wire anymore. Then, on top of all of that, both Candace Owens and Brett Cooper are actually doing better than ever after having left the Daily Wire. So it almost seems as if the Daily Wire itself has sort of become a toxic brand, like it's actually holding everyone back that's associated with it. But now, folks, here's the big question. Why? Why have conservative viewers so resoundingly turned their backs on the Daily Wire? Well, personally, I think there's two big reasons. The first reason is because I think the Daily Wire has ended up sort of becoming the very thing that it had originally sought to destroy, the mainstream media. As you all know, conservatives absolutely love alternative media. It's real, authentic, raw, and unfiltered. And as time has gone on, the Daily Wire has just become increasingly corporate. The nonstop ad breaks, the curated speech, it just doesn't feel real. And so that, in my opinion, is one of the Daily Wire's massive problems right now. The next issue, and this is a much more controversial topic, I know, is that the Daily Wire hasn't been able to effectively navigate the America First landscape. And what I mean by that is that many conservatives have stopped viewing the Daily Wire as being America First, but rather Israel First. And you know, many of the people working at the Daily Wire are Jewish, Ben Shapiro included, so I suppose it makes sense for many of them to be Israel First. But as things stand right now, many Americans are sick of foreign involvement, they're sick of foreign wars, they're sick of the problems of other areas of the world manifesting back home here in America, and the overall sentiment right now amongst conservatives is pretty much that we need to focus on things here domestically in America first. Now, as it relates to this entire conversation, take a look at this clip featuring Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, and Jeremy Boring.
One thing that annoys them is when they see, I don't remember who tweeted, someone tweeted something like, if you're an American patriot, it means you're pro-Israel or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. This idea that like it is your patriotic duty to have this particular feeling about another country, no matter what the other country is. I don't care what country it is. So that goes too far on that side of it. And I think they're kind of reacting. It's kind of what you're saying.
Yep.
They're reacting to that.
I do think I do think that there is something patriotic about supporting our allies, because we form alliances because it's in our national interest to form alliances. And having formed those alliances, and if we're all operating in a kind of good faith where those alliances are concerned, then there is a kind of patriotic.
Yeah, but you don't have a you don't have a patriotic duty to support any
Turkey.
country
Turkey
that is not your own.
Well, I will say that I think that what that statement is missing is the phrase at the end, right now. Okay, so I don't think that you have a patriotic duty to eternally support any other country, because circumstances change. The country, I mean, how many times have we seen alliances change and people end up on the other side of those alliances? But the idea that in a conflict between a democratic ally and an actual terror group, that it doesn't connect to any sort of, we're not talking about nationalism now, which is just attachment to country. We're talking about patriotism, which goes to underlying principle, that you have no duty at all to support a fellow democracy that is an ally in its own battle for survival. That seems to me to raise some patriotism principles.
Now, folks, I have to say, I absolutely wholeheartedly disagree with Ben Shapiro on this. We can all agree that terrorism is bad, but Ben Shapiro's attempt to gatekeep American patriotism such that you can't be an American patriot unless you wholeheartedly support Israel, I just fundamentally disagree with that. In fact, many of our nation's founding fathers, the greatest Americans ever, wouldn't have agreed with Ben Shapiro either. In 1793, Alexander Hamilton wrote to his fellow Americans, "Foreign influence is truly the Trojan horse to a republic. We cannot be too careful to exclude its entrance, nor ought we to imagine that it can only make its approaches in the gross form of direct bribery. It is then most dangerous when it comes under the patronage of our passions, under the auspices of national prejudices and partiality." In 1796, as he left office, none other than George Washington himself said to his fellow Americans, "It is our policy to steer clear of permanent alliances with any portion of the foreign world." In 1821, as the Greeks fought for their independence against the Islamic Turkish Ottomans, John Randolph wrote, "Stop looking for our assistance. Let us say to those 7 million Greeks, we defended ourselves when we were but 3 million Americans, against a power in comparison to which the Turk is but a lamb. Go and do thou likewise." And in 1823, as various other European groups sought to free themselves from the Ottomans' rule, Thomas Jefferson himself reiterated, "Our first and fundamental maxim should be never to entangle ourselves in the broils of the old world." And so, folks, as someone that's quite familiar with American history, I can confidently say that not only is Ben Shapiro absolutely wrong, but also that any truly patriotic American would in fact take offense to this notion that in order to be an American patriot, you must give your loyalty to some foreign country. That's absolutely absurd. Here's the truth. Whether you absolutely love Israel or absolutely hate Israel, that has absolutely no bearing on your capacity to be an American patriot. These are just two entirely separate issues. In the very same way that despite America being allies with South Korea, for instance, your sense of American patriotism isn't contingent on whether or not you personally support South Korea. You can still be an American patriot even if you don't love South Korea or America's relationship with South Korea. To assert otherwise is just completely ridiculous. And so here's the reality. I think that many Americans actually have taken offense to Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. In a sense, I think that the America First movement has moved on without them. And I think that this is pretty much why the Daily Wire is imploding right now. But you know what, folks? I acknowledge that this is probably one of my most controversial videos. So with this one, more than ever, I want to know what you guys have to say about all of this. So let me know in the comment section down below. But beyond that, before we wrap up with today's video, I want to say real quick that I've actually gone ahead and made a community Facebook page where I'll be posting additional news and updates as it relates to all of this. So hey, if you guys use Facebook, check out the pinned comment down below and give that page a follow. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for this video, so please like it if you liked it. As I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoyed the daily news coverage. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.